Yeah. So 15 by 10. Okay, not that you have this one in mind. Can you point to any of
Yeah, like
this little one? So, description?
around eight by five.
The tiny one.
So now, can you start to spot more and more of those?
Yeah.
Yeah, on the other side, there's a nice one. Not sure I can reach it though. Just over there, right? Here. Oh, maybe I can. Oh, yes. Oh, no. Okay. Okay, so there's quite a few. And the overall description that you gave is the same. But it's one interesting observation. There is no vegetation on it. So what does that imply for the rest? Is everything the same? All right. So we can't really go and touch it, but for sure there is blocks and there is something else. Okay? Unfortunately, we can't really go and touch here. We will check over there. But just looking at this outcrop, there's clearly two things. There's something that we might want to call the matrix, which is between those blocks and the block themselves. The back can.
Yeah, I think so.
Are they back online or?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, cool. So we just observed multiple blocks that have been described as black, angular, 10 to 15 centimeter size. There's no vegetation on it, so it must be different from the rest. So now we have two families of things that we see. Those black blocks and what we would call the matrix where the vegetation is growing on. So what do we do with that? Anything else that you can observe? Any specific layers where we have those blocks, or are they everywhere? Are they sorted or not sorted? Anything you can conclude from looking at this wall? No?
Is it like they are randomly placed?
Yeah, I don't see them. There's no obvious big one at the top or at the bottom and small one at the top or at the bottom. They're a bit everywhere. So that is a good observation for later. Okay. There is no obvious sorting of the main blocks. So, and thanks to the vegetation and the roughness, do you see some of alignments or layers at the base here? If you follow them, you can try to convince yourself there is some kind of alignments. Do you see that? If you don't see it, it's okay. We will remove it from the observation. I think I managed to convince myself that if I look with a given angle, I can follow lines there. If it's not obvious, we remove it. We don't need it. Or that's not an observation everybody is doing. That's fine. So I let you quickly sketch this outcrop, and then we can. Is there enough space? And we do two groups.
And it probably is. It'd be a bit crowded up there.
Okay, so we will do two groups.
And last year we had some groups.
Okay.
We finished what you're saying here.
Well, then the last thing I can say is, to the count of 3, bend down and collect a piece of rock.
Or maybe if half the group carries on sketching and the other half comes and looks at the other and stuff like that.
Okay. Can they still collect something at the foot? Or?
Yeah, yeah.
3,
Yeah.
2, 1, go! So what was the reaction for most of you? Very light. Anyone collected something light? Porous in the description? I heard light, porous. Why did you say porous? Do you see more than that? You say porous because it's light or because you see something? There's a lot of vesicles. What do you think could this be? Did you hear that? What do you think could it be?
Pumice.
Did you hear that? Pumice. Yeah. That is a really good observation. And all of you collected pumice under your feet. Why do you think is that? How those pumice that we collected under our feet came where we just collected them? Huh? Those one, the one we collected right there, the last emplacement mechanism. So the answer to your well, yes, at some point they came from the volcanoes. Okay, that's the primary emplacement mechanism. This one, do you think is the primary emplacement mechanism? No. So let's talk about this one. From the cliff or from washed down with water. What do you think happened when you put those guys in water? So it's not surprising that all of us, the first things we collected was pumice. Since this one was a flow of water going down, those guys will mainly be at the top. So don't get fooled by this. It's probably not the only thing we might find in this outcrop. Okay, but clearly there is pumice, so we observed that's true. But the secondary emplacement mechanism had a fake high concentration of pumices on top because it wasn't placed with water. So then that's the secondary emplacement mechanism. We will still want to first primary emplacement. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you go. And the 6 that remain, sketching. And we'll see if in your sketch that you observe that we have not discussed yet. Did you, Gareth, you send the picture?
Yeah.
To who?
Yeah, Susanna got it.
Susan. I did not receive it. Okay. that we mentioned earlier, visible here. Is the wall.
So some lamps off to the side here, these ones hopefully make out in the video. They're quite subtle in real life, so maybe they're a bit difficult, but just at the base of the what we can see these long, a couple of meters worth at the base. Oh. Just across from side to side. That could be causing these at the bottom, or these layers at the bottom of the outcrop, but they don't really exist up near the top.
This implies that there's a slight difference from above and below. Put a few blocks over there. The fact you can go up and down, and you will see there's quite a lot of blocks here. That kind of fits what you described earlier. There's more visible actually, but they are like fully sorted. So you can go there, and if you observe something.
So in a few minutes, I think we'll go uppers.
And I'm sending a picture of this.
Okay, and Benoit was about to send a picture of, in fact, you'll probably get the picture before this video catches up, of the slightly off down the path where we're not sure if we have Wi-Fi connection, so we're just going to keep the camera here for now. But there's just the same outcrop, but a few more of these sort of dark blocks on the more than visible down further along. So yeah, I guess the idea with these lines at the bottom, which are disappearing as we go up, it's just sort of wondering what might be causing, or if we can learn, if this can tell us something about the emplacement mechanism of this deposit. Why do we have these kind of strange lines at the bottom and not at the top? Important to note that we also have these big blocks through them as well as at the top. You can see where there's no few minutes, hopefully, yeah, we'll look at the other side of the deposit where we can get up nice and close and where we can scrape away this vegetation and see what the entire deposit looks like.
We won't gain much. Maybe it's nice to see that at the very bottom. It does, right?
So yeah, I think the students are still just sketching this outcrop at this stage.
Conclude on the placement mechanism at DW. Okay, look back up when you're done.
It's just started raining, so that's not too good. But I think the camera should be fine. It can handle a little bit of wet.
You done with your observations?
So yeah, since here we've done a sketch, you can start to think about the emplacement mechanism, the observations, and now, yeah, they'll back up the hill and we'll group and outcrop. And Benoit's taking a few extra photos by the looks of it. Okay, set this up.
You're going with
Yeah, we can go up this way, yeah? Sweet. Right, we're gonna go see Gareth now.
Gareth for the swap. Okay.
PVC. It's like we use when we don't go for a surge, like if it's really heavy for a rock or if it's got lots and lots of gas. So we use the term PDC for pyroclastic density current, and that just means it could be either. So we mean, yeah.
You think it can be either flow or surge?
Yeah, at least that's my understanding of why we use a PDC to describe pyroclastic gas. Yeah.
The difference is what's flow and what's surge.
Oh right, sorry. Like I was just explaining, so surge would be more like a dilute, like really diluted pyroclastic flow, which has a lot of gas involved and like not a huge, like not a super high density, and it travels potentially in different places than the really high density flow.
So if this is a valley, the flow might be concentrated at the bottom, but the surge might actually lift up the side as well.
But it's still really, really hot, so it's still dangerous.
At Udzen, I think it's the surges that killed the people. So they were off the valley, but a surge killed a bunch of journalists and scientists.
In that video that
in Japan.
Susanna showed the other day. So it's exactly like Benoit was explaining in. So we didn't know much about PDCs at this stage, so we had journalists and a couple of volcanologists sitting up here, out of the valley, they had to go down and went over a waterfall, but it was still hot enough to kill about 30 people.
Including the crafts.
Yeah.
I think they're thinking error.
Oh,
Okay.
Alright, let's move it.
All right. So you guys follow George, and you go up there with Gareth.
Maybe make. Yeah, we got space to move. Oh, cutting it back.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you could.
Maybe we'll show them up.
Take the
Oh, it sounds good to feel at the coffee shop.
hand in the hand sample needs to come
Cool. Yeah, you guys.
alongside our bamboo. Yeah, so spread out along this wall. So what do you do in this?
Maybe like this to the side.
Anything vegetation? We don't want to start. There's the different. So this don't the goggles. You have to start hard.
G.
So I found this, that yeah. And so when you're hammering it, all and there's yes, you found see how we filaments
That looks better. Oh no. It's mostly waterproof.
that's fine. The umbrella's fine.
Mixture of different grain sizes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you are you taking notes of the matrix?
Be a coffee grounds a little.
So right at the what else you can see in there is you've got some big bits. Describe those, and are they all the same?
We got all sorts. Some of them are quite shiny. Or maybe it's just the rain.
Yeah, a little bit.
So you might want to make some brief notes, but you also want to make sure that what you're writing down is representative of the whole outcrop. Because if you just hit a little small patch, then maybe maybe you just happen to hit the only soft bit, or you pull out one rock and you happen to have the only one of that type, and all the rest are different.
Cool, so now we're starting to put together a better picture of what the outcrop's like, now that we've been able to see the vegetation. The big blocks, the other ones, which I've different sorts of size, for crops of like, it's got a big, or the fancy frame. And then we can use that to sort of start to narrow down our emplacement mechanism. There's some ash in there stuck on my hands now.
Okay, is it ash? That's an interpretation.
Grain size. Ash grain size.
But ash is does imply a pressure.
Okay.
Because if you have silt or poetry, ash volcanic. You can pull up, playing is actually the wet word here. Reception